Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about Zen. And I mean, really talk about it, stripping away all the commercial stuff to get to the real heart of a practice that's thousands of years old. And you know what? It all starts with a simple observation about our own minds. I mean, really think about it. That voice that's always there, commenting, judging, worrying, planning. It's on from the moment you wake up. But here's the big question. What if you aren't that voice? What if there's a way to find some real space from it? So let's dive right into that. This internal chatter is something most of us just, take for granted. We think, well, that's just me. But simply becoming aware of it, that's the very first step on what can be a really profound journey. The Zen teacher, Henry Shukman, just puts this so perfectly. When he first started meditating, he had this huge realization that this narrator he'd been listening to his whole life was often really critical and, frankly, kind of mean. And the moment he noticed it, really saw it for what it was, that's when a little bit of freedom began to creep in. Okay, so if a lot of us are struggling with this inner critic, how does Zen actually help? What is it for real beyond, the minimalist furniture and the calming teas we see everywhere? Well, the beauty of Zen is honestly its simplicity. It's not about memorizing a bunch of complex beliefs or doctrines. It's way more direct. It's a path that grounds spiritual practice in two fundamental places: the stillness you find in meditation and the messy, real, ordinary stuff of your everyday life. And this is such a key point because so many people get this wrong. Zen isn't about escaping your problems or running away from life. It's the exact opposite. It's about learning to engage with your life more fully, more present, and with a heart that's way more open. And this all leads to the ultimate promise of Zen: to experience, not just to think about, but to actually experience. That the feeling of being a separate little me trapped inside this body, cut off from everything else, that isn't the whole story. It's an invitation to discover a much deeper, much more connected self. So how do you get there? I know it can sound impossibly huge, right? But the path, it turns out, can be broken down into a surprisingly straightforward journey. So it all starts with just noticing that voice in your head, creating that little bit of space. Then with practice, you can learn to drop into these states of flow where you're just totally absorbed. And then there's that final step, a glimpse of the truth. And here's the really wild part. This isn't something that's just for lifelong monks on a mountaintop. It can happen to anyone. For Henry, this happened long before he ever formally practiced Zen. He was just a teenager, standing on a beach, looking at the light on the water. And in that instant, everything just collapsed. The division between him, the observer, and the sunset, the thing being observed, it just wasn't there anymore. The sense of a separate Henry looking at a separate sunset completely dissolved. There was just everything. One single, unified, seamless reality. No inside, no outside, just this. And this wasn't just a cool thought or a nice idea. He said he knew it in his bones. It was this profound feeling of coming home, of realizing that his true nature was the nature of everything. There's this beautiful metaphor that just captures it perfectly. It's like we spend all our lives totally absorbed in the movie playing out on the screen, right? But the real purpose is to turn around and realize the source of the light that's projecting the whole show. Now, you'd think after an experience like that, all your problems would just vanish. Poof. But, well, the story doesn't end there. Not even close. This is such an important question to ask. Does a big awakening experience automatically heal all our psychological wounds, our traumas, our anxieties? For Henry Shukman, the answer was a very surprising no. Actually, kind of the opposite happened. That profound openness he felt just ripped away all his normal defenses, and suddenly he was flooded with all this unacknowledged pain from his past. The awakening didn't erase his trauma, it created the space where he finally had to turn around and face it. There's this great ancient Zen metaphor that explains this. Think of the path not as a single line, but like a cart with two wheels. One wheel is awakening, that sudden glimpse of reality, but the other wheel is healing, the slow, gradual, lifelong work of dealing with our very human pain. You need both for the cart to actually move forward. So where does all this leave us with these huge ideas of awakening and healing? What does Zen actually look like day to day? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple, and it's kind of hidden in plain sight.
This is a classic Zen koan, one of those paradoxical riddles. And at first, it sounds like complete nonsense, right? A student asks the most profound question you could possibly ask, and the master gives this super mundane, concrete answer. What on earth could that mean?
Well, the master was probably just weighing out flags at that exact moment. And his point was that the answer to the ultimate question, it's not in some theory or a faraway idea in a book. It's right here, in this cup of coffee, this breath, the absolute, undeniable reality of right now. And this line from one of Henry Shukman's poems just captures the result so beautifully. He's writing about just sweeping the yard, showing how the practice actually works. It doesn't transport you to some other world. It turns this world, this yard, this ordinary life into the sacred, bright place you can finally call home. And so we'll end with a question for you. Where in your ordinary life, when you're washing the dishes, or stuck in traffic, or just feeling the sun on your skin, what if the most profound truth you could ever know is already right there, just waiting for you to notice? Thanks for joining me.